Hi folks, welcome to the weekend. I trust that you've had a great reading week. On that topic, what have I been reading? As predicted last Friday, I finished this during a mammoth 50-mile run on Saturday last week on audiobook. It fit very nicely into that run because the audiobook presentation was very slow and ponderous. I was able to speed it up to double speed without it being at all like Pinky and Perky. So Forge of God is a first contact tale of sorts with added geological disaster. The book begins with three geologists who are in the middle of nowhere in Nevada or California or somewhere around there, in Death Valley, in fact, and they find a geological feature that shouldn't be there. It's a small mountain, a kind of conical, almost like a volcano, has just appeared overnight with no explanation. It's not on any of their geological maps. It shouldn't be there. What the hell's going on? Being geologists, they go and have a little explore, and they find not only an entrance, but they find in the sun, struggling quite a bit, a dying, what can only be described as alien. It looks up at them with its little eyes flickering and says something along the lines of, "I'm afraid there's bad news." And that's really where the book kicks off. And it becomes clear very early on that there's a mirror feature in the Australian desert. But there, life is rosy. Their alien representatives are robots, and they are promising them the universe and all sorts of helpful life-enhancing technology, which humans would be able to use in the Australian government's like, this is awesome. We're introduced to Arthur Gordon in the States. He's a former science advisor to the president, and he's got an inside track to people still at NASA. He gets a phone call telling him, again, early in the book, that Europa, fourth moon of Jupiter, has vanished, just vanished. It's disappeared. It's no longer visible. There's no obvious debris. And the sudden disappearance of a moon in unexplained circumstances is probably not a good thing. Forge of God is a book, I think, influenced by Fred Saberhagen's Berserker stories. We've got Van Neumann machines, self-replicating Van Neumann machines, both goodies and baddies. The president of the US gets kind of religion. He's freaked out by what the dying alien has to tell them, which is effectively that the world is going to end. And again, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. The clues in the rather graphic image of the Earth, in fact, exploding on the cover of the book. So the president gets religion, and he effectively surrenders on behalf of the world and says, okay, well, what will be, will be. We're just going to have to get used to the idea and, make our peace. He sees it as the inevitable wrath of God, of a vengeful God, and we're getting what our just deserts. And obviously, this being the US, some people go along with that, but many people are like, hang on a minute, we're not just going to give up. We've got things to do. We can win. We're humans. And fortunately for us, we can, although only with quite a lot of help. There are good Van Neumann machines, as I mentioned, self-replicating spiders, which help. And I won't tell you how. And then, so that story of that building resistance to this inevitable doom is really the crux of the second half of the book. And our geologist friends, who are initially kept in isolation because of discovering the alien in the desert, both to manage the secrecy of it, but also in case they catch alien cooties or something. Those guys end up being the surrogate for every man of the story. So their experience of the world hurtling towards its inevitable doom is representing our experience of that process. So they're like a cipher for that. So I like the sense of impending doom that Forge of God deals out. We're effectively helpless in the face of superior technology. We can lob some nukes at them if we can even find them, but really what's that going to do? The pacing of the tale was pretty good. It moved along very well. The narration, although it was a bit slow and I was able to speed it up, really wasn't a problem. It was good. I thought that the Van Neumann spiders were pretty cool. We do get at the very end of the novel a glimpse of the post-destruction future for the human race, which I quite liked as well. There is a sequel, although I have heard that it's not as good as Forge of God, but I should read it anyway just to see where the story goes. So Forge of God, I enjoyed my time with this book. And then we've got The Island of Dr. Death and Other Stories, which, as the name suggests, is a short story collection. It's by Wolfe, of course, the author of, amongst other things, The Book of the New Sun. I haven't finished, actually. I'm about a third of the way through. With short story collections, I don't feel the need in the same way as I do with a novel to finish it. So I've read what I felt like reading, and then I picked up the next book, which we'll talk about in a minute. The most memorable tale in the book, I think, is The Death of Dr. Ireland, in which the space habitat is slowly revealed is the local psychiatrist, and it deals with the problematic people that are incarcerated there for a period of time in various different ways. And there's a third story, which is a similar play on the title of the book, which is the Doctor of Death Island, and I haven't got to that one yet. So I'm not sure if I'll read them this month or if I'll just pick it up again another time to finish it. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. And my next book is Empire of Fear by Brian Stableford, which is a vampire tale. I haven't finished it. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I've enjoyed the first two parts more than the rest. The first two parts are set in a sort of medieval Europe in England, which is now part of a greater Gaul empire, which is run by the vampires of the piece. We follow a character who ends up going to Africa to try to figure out how vampires are created. He believes that the secret of that lives in a place roughly equivalent to the kingdom of Benin in something called Adamawara. And there's a lot of Dr. Livingstone stuff of them and the Heart of Darkness stuff of them kind of going up rivers and being attacked by natives and what have you, and they eventually get where they're going at some attrition to their party. And the secret's revealed, and I'm just getting to the point now where that secret has been unleashed in Europe and it's changing the structure of society. The vampire aristocracy are no longer the only ones with immortal life and the ability to resist pain, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just beginning that next section. So we're back in Europe again, and I'm keen to see where it goes next. Channel stuff next then. Subscriptions are at 3,356, which is up an impressive 72 on last week. And if you're one of those 72, or if you've just stumbled across my channel for the first time today, welcome to you all. I'm John. I focus on collecting, reading, and chatting about science fiction books, old and new. Comment of the week this week was from Peter Kerran, who made some good space opera book suggestions in response to the space opera video earlier in the week. And he also suggested a moon-themed video he thought would be a good idea. And the good news is there already is one. It's from about 9 months ago in the early-ish days of the channel. I sent him the link in reply, but just as a FYI for all of you, particularly if you're a more recent convert to the channel, then do have a good rummage around in the back catalogue. There are a lot of thematic videos that you might enjoy. Thank you to Peter for taking the time to leave a comment, and to all of you that do the same thing. As always, I really appreciate it. In a similar vein, today I received a postcard from Bruce in the great city of Toronto, Canada. Bruce sends me a postcard from time to time. They're science fiction themed ones, as you can see. These are Penguin book covers, and this is from a John Wyndham book. He knows that I've been reading some John Wyndham recently and thought of me when he saw this, and he sent it. So it's very nice. Always really lovely to hear from Bruce, or anyone that watches the channel. I do love making those connections. So thank you, Bruce. Let's take a quick look at what was on the channel this week. On Sunday, there was that space opera video that I mentioned earlier, and we look at 10 fantastic books from the early 2000s. So from the year 2000 to 2009, the first decade of the new millennium. I think there are 10 really good books. There are some that you will almost certainly have heard of, and some that you might not. They were a bit more on the obscure, the underappreciated side, let's say. That video's done pretty well. I think it's going to end up being a top 5 video overall on my channel. And on Wednesday, there was a look at a book that I bought recently. It's this one, 101 Best Science Fiction Novels from 1985 to 2010, so a 25-year period. And obviously, I was fascinated to know how many of them do I already own, which of them have I read, and which of them do I want to seek out. And that's really what that video covers. And I show a bunch of books, and I lust after some that I don't yet have. On the book buying front, I have naturally started to try to find a few of that 101 list that I don't already have. 1 or 2 of them arrived. One is a really lovely copy. It's, I think, unread. The text block is very clean indeed. I'll show that at the next book haul, obviously. And then also this week, an order from the US, just one book has arrived. That's in tip-top condition. And then there are 1 or 2 other things on their way that might arrive today. They might arrive tomorrow. So my to-be-hauled pile, as it stands right now, is 5. There are 5 books on my to-be-hauled pile. What have I been watching this week? Well, in BookTube terms, not a huge amount. I did have a look at Luke over at Future Fiction Reads, and that's a new, or at least recently relaunched channel, and he's focusing on science fiction and fantasy of various kinds. And I watched his TBR for October pile, and there are a couple of science fiction books in there. I wish Luke all the best with his new channel. I hope that goes well for him. You might want to take a look. And then yesterday I watched Whitney over at Secret Source of Storycraft. She had a video about self-published science fiction, and that's something I'm a little bit sniffy about, completely unreasonably, as I haven't actually read any, so how would I know? And the big challenge with that, I think, is how do you sort the wheat from the chaff, the good from the bad? And she offered a way to do that. She participated as a judge in a competition recently, looking for the best self-published science fiction from last year, and that process obviously winnowed out some of the less good books and resulted in a small number which really stood out, and she recommends those books. It was also interesting to hear about her experience of being a judge and the slightly frenetic reading calendar that entailed. So as usual, I'll put the links to both of those videos in the description so you can go take a look if you wish. Let's take a look at what's coming on the channel in the next week. On Sunday, there will be a look at the books that I've selected for my October TBR pile. That's using, as always, the Bingo Balls of Fate and the Decision Dice of Destiny. There are some really excellent reads in there I'm very, very much looking forward to tackling. On Wednesday or Thursday, there will be a look at the books that I've read during September, and as usual, I will rank them mercilessly and declare a book of the month to boot. Longer range, I'm busy working on a video looking at the science fiction highlights from the 1970s. I have got to the stage now of at least narrowing down to which 10 books I'm going to feature, and I've started working on some of the research for those. So that will come in the next couple of weeks, I think. The week after next, I think there will be a video of me chatting to Sue Burke, who's the author of Semiosis and several other books, including her new one, Usurpation, which I read earlier in the year. Reading-wise, in the coming week, I shall finish The Empire of Fear, probably this weekend, and if I have time and inclination, I might well read a few more of The Island of Dr. Death, and then I should be into October's TBR, and you'll just have to wait until Sunday's video to see what those might include. As always, thank you for watching, have a fabulous weekend, and until next time, goodbye for now.